Hello, everyone, or whoever is watching. Before we get started into the review, right now, I just wanted to talk about one small thing. Well, not so much of a small thing, but if you are a Power Rangers fan, then of course you've heard about the press that's been going on since last week with Bruno from MMPR Toys about their friend from YouTube calling Power Rangers a dead brand. For right now, I just want to take a moment to give a shout out to him because I found his video because this right now is a shout out to MMPR Toys and Chris Canada Force, who both suggested their viewers to leave a link to YouTubers' channels. If you're a fan of Power Rangers, basically leave a link to your channel down below as support to saying that Power Rangers isn't a dead brand, to which I have done for both of them. And Bruno from MMPR Toys himself actually responded back. And I will be showing the comment right back down here just to say thank you and what's up. And so basically this short part of the video is just to thank Bruno for responding back and just to show that I am a person who has support. Because, of course, before being a Sentai fan and a KamenRider fan, I am a fan of Power Rangers. Because that was sort of my intro into everything else. So, shout out to Bruno with MMPR Toys. Go subscribe to them. And their vlog, Divided We Stand. And with that said, let's get into KamenRider Kuuga. Hello, everybody, and welcome to KamenRider Blackman. And today I am getting very excited to do this one because I've been meaning to do it for a long time now. This is my second full show review, and today we are reviewing CHOU HENSHIN KamenRider Kuuga. KamenRider Kuuga. Whew, let's get started. And hopefully I do not kill myself doing this. Yep. So, KamenRider Kuuga. Alright, first thing I want to say about this show is that, one, I personally really like this show, and two, this show actually came out on my birthday, January 30th. But here's the thing, this show came out in January 30th, 2000, and I was born January 30th, 1999. So when Kuuga came out, I was 1. And another thing, show, and I planned for this review in advance, and I was thinking, like, would I rather actually put this out on my birthday or on the 25th, just a few days before my birthday? Because there's a reason for that. January 25th is the Shotaro Ishinomori's birthday. And if you know who Shotaro Ishinomori is, he is the creator of KamenRider, basically. And of course, in the late 90s, he is no longer with us due to failing health. And so I decided to do this on the 25th as a tribute to Ishinomori. So, with that said, today is the 5th, and let's get started. First, let's talk about the opening. I fucking love this song. This is a song I honestly enjoy this song. I play that song on my phone a lot. It's one of my favorite songs just in general, as well as one of my favorite songs, period, in KamenRider. And if my memory serves right, that song alone made it onto my top 10 KamenRiders opening list. Which, by the way, go check that video out if you'd like to. But just to get more in depth about this song, this is a song where I really bother to learn the lyrics, and I do. And it's just good. I love the hype. I love the energy. I love how it's about getting stronger, to be the best, to protect people. It's amazing. It's just
it reflects what Kuuga's about in story. And to talk about the ending, this is honestly this is a good ending because it's a good ending because it's the type of song you play after a long day of work and you want to relax. And so just yeah, the lyrics are good and I can get into more depth about why the song it's breathtaking once I get along in the review, but it just feels so beautiful in my opinion. But with that said, let's start off with episode 1, Revival. This show immediately starts off with a tribute to the late Ishinomori and says to watch in a lit room. And there's a little reason for that. Because this show is filled with murder. Like, I'm not kidding. A lot of people get killed in this show. In all of the most sadistic ways. And I'm not talking about like an X-Aid where people disappear. No, people get killed and you see their bodies. This is early Heisei. Yeah. But episode 1, after we get the tribute, we get a montage of actually the previous Kuuga fighting a gang of monsters, and afterwards he goes into a coffin, entombing himself. Now, a millennium later, we with this being an early 2000s show, humanity dooms itself by opening a coffin that says "Don't open," because it's the same thing that always puts humanity in danger is not reading the labels, for example, or just opening stuff that we don't know what it is. Because, for example, a space dumpster that releases a witch, a door that releases yokai, and years later, a box that releases an evil dragon spirit. But I digress. As well as the next scene is that we go to a train station where we meet the star of our show, Yusuke Godai. And now, one quick thing about him. Before I watched this show for the first time, I've heard small word about this character, and I assumed he was more stoic. But in reality, he is a happy-go-lucky guy. He's basically like Ryoga from Abba Ranger, basically, minus having a kid. But we're at the train station, and Yusuke helps a little boy find his parents after he lost sight of them, and next goes to see Miss Sakurako Sawatari, a language text translator, and she associates with the excavation team in translating the hieroglyphics that they email her. And speaking of which, of the excavation team, they're dead. Push me to the edge. All my friends are dead. No. Anyway, their murderer is a monster in a cloak who just so happens to be the main villain / the final boss of the show, who we don't know what he looks like because his face is covered, but the next thing he does is step outside and revive the monsters of this season, the Gorongi. So, one quick thing about the Gorongi. Two quick things. One, their designs are amazing because they look like they were just revived from the dead. They all have an animal motif to it, and they just look gritty as a whole. And 2, if I remember right, these monster designs, they also made it onto my top 10 KamenRider monsters list. That's another video you should go check out. Just plugging myself back to the show. So, now, at the excavation site, the next morning, we meet our second protagonist, Koro Ichijo, a cop investigating the incident. And Yusuke is also there to check out everything, and Ichijo threatens to arrest him for interfering with a police case. Now, not to be rude or anything about Ichijo, oh, not to be because he told Ichijo, no, Ichijo told Yusuke no the first time, and he didn't listen. And now, to show some more speculation, the police discover the Kuuga's belt, the Oracle, as Yusuke gets a vision from looking at it. They investigate more about the belt at the police station, where the first monster of the show wreaks havoc and is and it's a big spider. And pretty much, the first monster of the show is a big spider because KamenRider because for the first monster in a KamenRider series, it's either a big spider or a big bat, which we'll get later. But the spider Gorongi, he shows up, he starts killing people, and once he arrives at the police station, he goes on a spring there. Now going after Yusuke and company, Yusuke decides to access the belt and eventually gets the suit on as Kuuga growing form. Let's talk about growing form for a minute. Growing form is, first of all, let's talk about what growing form is. Growing form is, it's Kuuga's larva form. It's like platform from Den-O, except larva form, it's like level before level 1, where he's all white and his arms are like this small. But as a suit alone, like, it's a pretty standard, less of a powerful suit. But larva form's actually enough to get the job done, and it has before. And that's what I'll say there. Now, in the first battle, it goes all over the place. It starts off like on the ground, then eventually up into a building, then a helicopter, where as a three-way battle goes out with Yusuke, Ichijo, and the spider, and Yusuke and Ichijo, they both try to shake the monster off until they do, and the monster drops from 10 feet in the air, crashing into a building. That's not even the most deep. That's not even the darkest way someone dies in this show. But with that said, I like this first episode because of how dark it is, and it's not over the top. And it's really, from when I first saw this show, because this is like my second time watching it, it's something that just grabbed my attention immediately, because you don't really see that anymore. And and all that tension and whatnot, something about it just grabbed me of interest of seeing how these monsters go down and how they just go about killing people. But moving on to episode 2. Now, like what I said, growing form is Kuuga's larva form. It's not the strongest, and it'll only go as far as it could go itself. But in episode 2, we get our actual base form, Mighty form, where Kuuga is red. Now, Mighty form, on the other hand, it's a fine suit. It's pretty simplistic, and it's not bad. It's pretty simplistic for itself, going in for early Heisei. Let me get myself in more into the camera. Now, like I said, Mighty form, it's a fine suit. Now, the police are actually up to date on the monsters and refer to each one by number. And I guess that helps. But what's a mouthful is that they call the Gorongi unidentified life forms and then refer to each of them by a number. So the first Gorongi was unidentified life form number 1. And just going down the line with like bigger numbers, it's just... Oh, and Kuuga, his mighty form is called... And Kuuga, he's referred to as unidentified life form number 4. like that's a lot to say. So it's like you gotta have like a cup of water even after saying that. But with that said, in episode 3, after doing a blood test from a sample of the spider Garangi, we learned that the Garangi are indeed human that can transform into monsters, and the police are to follow an order to shoot them on sight any unidentified life form. And in episodes 3 and 4 is Ichijo convincing the police that Kuuga's on their side, as well as introducing one of the proper main villains of the show, or at least the one proper main villain of the show, unidentified life form B1, who is the Rose Garangi. And what she looks like is she's a human woman with a rose tattoo on her forehead, and she's always wearing white. And so, yeah, she doesn't have a monster form in this show, but she does have monster-like abilities. She's the one who sets up the monsters in the show with the belts they have on before they go out and wreak havoc. And in episode 4, Yusuke is also given his rider machine, the Tri-Chaser 2000. Let's talk about the Tri-Chaser for a second. This is not a bad bike. It's just, I like his second bike that he gets a lot more. Spoiler alert. Because, I don't know, it's just for me, the Tri-Chaser is not bad, but it's probably because they're red and silver together. It's just, Anyway, like, it's not a bad bike. It's just, in my opinion. But in episodes, this is a big thing about the show that I enjoyed. In episodes 5, 7, and 10, we get something in KamenRider that's been sporadic before, because we get something that we've seen before in KamenRider Stronger and Black RX. 2 shows to which I haven't seen because they haven't been subbed yet. But in this show, this is what makes it a tradition for every year. And of course, I'm talking about form changes, because in episodes 5, 7, and 10, in the midst of his battles, we get introduced to Dragon form, Pegasus form, and Titan form. Now, out of all these forms, my personal favorite is Titan form, because he is a legit tank, and I just love those 2 colors together, purple and silver. But second to that, I also like Dragon form, and it's because I don't know what it is about Dragon form. It's either that color of blue or the actual outfit that he has on, where he has naked shoulders. But it just looks pretty cool to me. Oh, I see why. Because Dragon form, because his weapon is his staff, he probably looks like more or less of a Chinese martial artist, in my opinion. I don't know why, because that's where my mind goes. But, like I said, 2 forms I like in this show are Titan form and Dragon form. Titan form a bit more, though. But, like I said, with these forms, he learns how they work and how to use them from Sakurako, because each form has something special for each of them. With Dragon form, he can jump hop. With Dragon form, he can basically jump fly, but his punches are weaker, but his kicks aren't. And the first time he uses Pegasus form, he gained super senses and can hear everything and became super overwhelmed. And so he had to learn to concentrate in order to use it. And in Titan form, he is a walking tank who will stab you. And like I said, and out of these 3 forms, like, the most powerful, in my opinion, it would have to be, I think, Pegasus, because it has a bit of a setback, but Titan form's a close second. Now, when I first watched Kuuga and still I still do like the first 10 episodes of the show. One that probably gets my attention a bit more is the episode or the two-parter where Titanform is introduced, because we get to learn about, because first we see Yusuke's younger sister viewing her brother as something totally different because she's watching him essentially take part in a war and is scared for him. And now, here's another thing at least I should mention about this show, because it's not just Sakurako and Ichigo, but this show has a lot of side characters where a lot of them serve a purpose. So first there's Jean, a white Swedish man. So yeah, basically a white guy who can speak Japanese and is a friend of Sakurako's and is a university student at where I don't know it is. But he's in almost every episode in this show with Sakurako, and he gets his own thing eventually later. And also Tsubaki, he is a coroner who is high school friends with Ichijo, and he specializes in Garangi cases and does autopsies on them, and is Yusuke's doctor. And because you know, his belt is literally inside of him. That pretty much. But and one more character, there's Hikari Enokita, a scientist in alliance with the police. And out of all the characters I just mentioned, she has her own story actually that goes throughout this entire show with her home life. And the thing about these characters is that they all serve a purpose in this crisis right now with the monsters, because the police isn't just gonna sit back and let Kuuga do all the work. They actually want to fight these guys themselves because it's their job to protect people. And this show may not have a secondary writer, but Kuuga does have a team behind him studying and working their butts off with every monster case to find a weakness or clue for said monster, or hell, create a new weapon for the police to fight back with, since normal guns don't work. So, moving on now to, need to get a quick drink of water. Yeah. Okay. Episode 12. Like, this is a filler episode, but this is the episode where Yusuke properly creates his rider kick, to which he prepares where, let me see here, Kuuga's rider kick, well, that's the name of it, mighty kick, is when he prepares to run straight forward, front flip into the air, kick you, and then right after he kicks you, you get branded. Because before you die, he goes, I'm going to mark you to know, so that you can know who did this to you. Yeah. Just the fact of that alone, the fact of once he does his finisher on you, you get branded and then you die. That's just always awesome to see, because Kuuga has so many different finishers. He'll kick you, he'll stab you, he'll snipe you. With Dragon Form, I feel like if he hits you hard enough with that staff, you'll go down there with something broken. So yeah, that's just weird to me. But it's a good finisher. It's not a lot of CGI, and just seeing the monster blow up is just a treat, because holy shit. But with that said, that's all it's important. Also, in episode 12, we also get a little insight on Yusuke and his childhood. Like, we don't think. I assume his mother is deceased, but his dad was a military photographer. So he was always out. He was never really home because he was out doing his job. But as you can see with how Yusuke is an adventurer, he really takes up after his folks. But now, episodes 14 and 15, Kuuga, we now get a new piece in Kuuga's arsenal, a horse armor in the shape of a stag beetle called Goram. And I like how Goram looks because it's black and gold and it's a giant beetle. Now, Jean found the pieces of Goram on an excavation and it took shape and it's been flying towards Japan, absorbing metals to make more of its form. Once you see it again, it finds Yusuke and combines with the bike. And the first time it tries to help, but it doesn't do jack shit. That I just remembered. The first time we see Goram combined with the bike, it doesn't do a damn thing. Like, Goram is basically sentient and it comes alive and it helps whenever it feels like it or whenever Yusuke calls for it. And the first time Goram is useful, like Kuuga is fighting a monster that's killing people by backing up on them with a tow truck, and the next time how the monster dies is basically Goram fuses with the bike, and the monster is driving a tow truck, so on the bike, Kuuga rams into the truck, killing the monster. Like, this dude went down by vehicular manslaughter. It's just Jesus Christ. The thought of that alone, you need to take a moment to think about it, because 15 episodes in, you've seen people die by getting stabbed, getting sniped. One monster that I really like, he makes people explode. And then you just see vehicular manslaughter happens. It's just, oh my god. Like, Kuuga tried to do that to someone before, kill them with the Tri-Chaser, but it didn't work because Goram wasn't there. I'm kidding. Just one of the millions of ways that people get killed in this show. Now, moving on to episodes 18 and 19, one of the most surprising things happened in the show. On first watch, it had me shook. And on second watch, it hit me a bit more. But in episode 19, that I never knew what happened in this. It hit me more in episode now. Oh yeah, now I know what I'm going to say. This is something that I never knew that happened about the show. I heard very little about this episode because basically, of course there's a monster, and weirdly enough, it's a mushroom monster. I'm just putting that fact out there. But the monster in this episode, it's been going around poisoning people, and they die from having their organs shrunk, and immediately they decay on the inside. And Yusuke gets hit with this, and he dies next episode. And so it's only thanks to the stone inside of him, the Amadon, that he actually revives and comes back to life. And after he comes back to life, Like he then gets these feelings of these golden strikes of lightning coming out of him. And so that starts up speculation about, first of all, Kuuga's death and revival. It starts up speculations about the limits and abilities of Kuuga's powers. Because, like what I said, the belt, his transformation device, is inside of him. And so, he can and so with the belt inside of him, he can heal faster and become more stronger. So physically, this shows like Kuuga getting stronger thanks to the belt. It physically shows with those golden lightning strikes, as we'll see more in the next couple of episodes, which I'll get more into the point of which it gets more into the point of his rising power that explains the lightning strikes. Basically, when contacted with actual electricity, Yusuke can grow stronger and change into the rising versions of his form, making him grow stronger and gain new abilities. So, let's talk about the rising versions of his forms, Titan, Dragon, and Pegasus. One quick thing though, like Yusuke's other forms, like this is the order that they were introduced in: Dragon, Pegasus, and Titan. But moving forward, I'd say episodes, because I know I got this down, episodes 24, 25, and 28, the order is they were shown was Rising Titan, Pegasus, and Dragon. So in reverse. But the rising forms, y'all already know what I'm going to say. Rising Titan is like my favorite form because it's purple and gold. Once again, purple is always a good color because it's one of my favorite colors. But Jesus Christ, it just looks so amazing. It just looks so beautiful. And inset abilities, in Rising Titan, his defenses are increased, and he gets a sharper extension on his sword. And if he wanted to, wield two swords. In Rising Pegasus, he then gets a sniper rifle, like an actual sniper rifle, and he can now physically see farther. And in Rising Dragon, he gets a double-edged spear, because double-edged spears are cool, and so are sniper rifles, and wielding dual swords. But yeah, these forms look fantastic, and of course my second favorite is Rising Dragon, because everything is much bulkier, it looks more muscular, more stronger, and there's more blue in the shoulders. I do like, but then it makes me miss the black naked shoulders. But with the more blue and the more gold showing, it shows that he is now more powerful as all hell. Now, one last thing that I intentionally missed to mention up to now is the motives of the monsters. Basically, the monsters in this show, the Garangi, they kill people all for a game, but like they don't treat it like a free-for-all. Like, no, like it's not like whoever gets the most kills wins. No, they actually set up rules for their games, for each one's games. One and only one person is selected to kill how many their quota is in the said number of days or hours they are given. And the rewards is they go up in rank, and you get to challenge the winning group for basically leadership of the whole race, because all of the Garangi are categorized in their groups depending on what species they are. And just like any game, the winner, basically like any game, the boss level is when you beat the final boss to assume leadership. I need more water. So, one sec. Alright, got more water. So now, in episode 30, this story now comes to a realization that Kuuga is growing stronger and stronger because basically, yeah, he now has a rising version of each of his forms. So the last one that gets a rising version is his base form, mighty form. And so in episode, yeah, and that's talked about a power up version of mighty form. That's talked about in episode 29. In episode 30, we actually see Rising Mighty, which is a power up version of his base form. And the first time I watched this show, I kept getting confused on the differences between Mighty form and Rising Mighty. And it took me a while to realize of the gold trimmings that are around Rising Mighty. And this, first of all, is his super form or mid-season form, if you'd call it. Or at least to me, it is, because Kuuga has like plenty of forms, and this isn't even his final form. This is his third to last form, because this isn't even his final form, but yet Rising Mighty is extremely powerful. Because the first time he does a single rider kick in this form, not only does he kill the monster, but 3 city blocks are just decimated, and 2,760 miles of town are just destroyed. Buildings and subway systems took some damage, and it was pretty unclear for a second if there were any casualties. And though with all that power alone, yes, it is indeed very scary, but at the moment of time, it was extremely necessary to use it because nothing was working, not even Titan. And because of this incident, everyone turns their back on Kuuga. Mind you, he is constantly saving lives, and this was a scenario that everyone took precaution to. So actually faulting him as technically a public servant, like for doing his job, would be unethical because even the police have to do things that they also don't want to do sometimes, but have to for the greater good. And so the next episode, when dealing with a monster that's killing people on a motorcycle, like Kuuga is disapproved to use a new bike because of that incident, and it's completely unprincipled. But yeah, in episodes 32 and 33, the monster is riding a motorcycle and killing motorcycle riders. Now, this guy and Kuuga, they both have their quick things about this. The fighting in this episode, it's all done on bikes. So this guy and Kuuga, on their bikes, they're doing stunts, they're tailing each other, hell, actually hitting each other via vehicle. And this is where Kuuga's second bike, the Beat Chaser 2000, comes into play, because the Tri Chaser gets busted. So it gets broken so bad that it's a no-go and out of commission. So cops are left to their devices to maintain the threat and limit casualties. And just to show how more wrong the board was to decide that Kuuga can't use the Beat Chaser. But I will respect the competency of the police of finding a way to assist Kuuga with dealing with the monsters from here on, and eventually able to combat them alone without Yusuke being there. But because this alone, this is a good plan because in these two episodes, like, yes, there were casualties, but the police were working their butts off and they technically were protecting people and trying to throw this guy off so that Yusuke could deal with them. And I will give them, and so that's true progress. That's actual progress that I enjoy. But now let's take a moment and talk about the Beat Chaser 2000. I really enjoy this bike, and it's all because it's black, red, and gold, and those three colors together just look fucking awesome. This bike is a lot stronger and more enduranceful than the Tri Chaser, and it's a lot faster, and it has all of the best things about it. And you can tell this bike will get the job done when you get it into its actual ready form. But yeah. So yeah, pretty much. The Beat Chaser, it's a good looking bike, as well as it is a powerful, strong bike. But, so now, moving on to episode 34. Yeah. So, excuse me. So, how do I put this? The monster in this episode is targeting and killing kids. Now, to be technical, he's targeting teenage boys. That's a very suspect target, but anywho, this monster has been responsible for 90 deaths and killing them through epilepsy. Now, for those of you that don't know what epilepsy is, it's an inflammation of the brain to where victims suffer hallucinations, fevers, and seizures that could kill them. And not all of them have suffered because most victims have committed suicide because they just don't want to die in 4 days. So, yeah. All that said alone is pretty fucked up. Almost 90 youths have died, and Yusuke is not down with that. If you ever plan to watch Kuuga, and I hope you do, understand that Yusuke he's a real upbeat, positive guy. You don't really see him get pissed about anything. In this episode, this guy pushed it to that limit. And so, yeah, so the monster comes. So let's move on to episode 35, which is still the two-parter with this monster killing the kids. The monster comes back, and Yusuke finds this guy, transforms into Kuuga while throwing him and himself out of a window, and proceeding to beat the shit out of this guy. Like, blood's coming out. Like, you see Kuuga drawing blood from this guy. And now this episode, before seeing it again, this is dark as it is memorable. Just watching Kuuga wail on this guy. And as soon as the monster realized that it's fucked, like, Kuuga charges at him on his bike and brings him to a lake where the monster takes quills out of him and tries to stab him, but then he transforms into Titan. He shakes him off, throws this guy off, and throws this guy off and in a body of water with more quills coming at him, and while he's transforming into Rising Titan. And this whole time, Yusuke, he's thinking about all of those people that died, and he's just looking at this guy, just fed up, and with the mentality of, you're gonna die, you're just gonna die. And then he goes And then he fucking does this. He takes his sword and stabs this guy, and then drags this sword throughout his body until he explodes. That is a true definition of suppressed anger, because that whole rampage is scary in thought as well as actually imagining it, because don't fuck with Yusuke or that will happen to you. Like, and honest to God, like, you don't see shit like that anymore. Like, someone gets stabbed, like, if someone gets stabbed, like, they just get stabbed. No one is pushed far enough for them to go a little psycho. And oddly, and like I said, this is why I like early Heisei shows, because of how graphic they are and how physical the finishers are. And so seeing someone actually having to stab a monster where it's not an energy slash, good gracious, it's such a treat. But holy crap, Kuuga is scary as fuck. So, space this out more. So, 2 more things actually happened in this episode. One, Yusuke has a vision of his final form and what it looks like in the fires of his hatred. And 2, we get a clue about the main villain slash the final boss of the show, the leader of the Garangi, N-Dogava. In the first hint we get on his active status is a massacre of Garangi that he did himself because he believed to kill those that who he thought were too weak and weren't worthy enough for the Gigaru. And so Sakurako is the one investigating Dogava and finds the Kuuga mark on the wall in blood with 4 horns. And that means it's him. Like I said, because he is the leader of the monsters. He is unidentified life form number 0. He's the one we saw escape the tomb in the first episode. And the first thing he does is go out and kill his own, which he does again. So, now, let me see. For the next one, because episodes 36 through 39, I totally forgot. Like, this is a 4-parter, and it's all about N-Dogava's advancing. Like, first we learn that he plans to bring the ultimate darkness by entering the current Kuuga's body. And 2, one of the monsters that's been hanging around for a long time, the Bat Garangi is what the monster is. Because first things first about the Bat Garangi, it's a monster from episode 2 that was out killing people, and he got kicked out of the Gigaru because he didn't complete his task. 2, the Bat Garangi, his weakness is sunlight, and whenever he's in sunlight, he cries like a dog, going, He dies in this episode. He steals a bit of Dogva's power, and Dogva didn't like that, so he kills him. So yeah. He was pretty much there hanging around to begin with, so they just fuck him. But, next. What else did I say? Oh, yes. The episode and the moment where they find the Bat Garangi's corpse, they look up in the sky at the same type of blue lightning that was seen in episode 1, so they know it's N-Dogava. And so, yeah, pretty much. They lay it down pretty thick of how irredeemable he is. And moving on to physical appearance wise in the show, Endog he shows up like a phantom and stays in the show for the last 9 episodes. And throughout this time now, everyone's been studying and gathering their data together about the Grongi and now get hit with the ultimate darkness. But Yusuke ensures that he'll be fine as long as he doesn't fight with the heart of hatred. So, the next important episode is episode 46. After fighting one of the last few monsters left, Yusuke is put in the hospital in Tsubaki's care. With his life signs stopping, Tsubaki's left with no choice but to use defibrillators to save him, as well as make him stronger. Now, here is the show's actual mid-season form, Amazing Mighty, which is a black and gold version of Rising Mighty. Amazing Mighty is no different than Rising Mighty in my opinion, except for he can do a rider kick with both feet, because rider kicks with both feet are awesome. Just ask O's and W. And that's not even his final form. Literally, one of the antsiest things about this show is that we saw what his final form is, but it doesn't come up until super late. It's like, yes, honest to God, we get the final form in the second to last episode, but compared to as other Heisei Rider shows where the final form shows up in like the 30s, but Kuuga is a special case because we know how powerful this form is and what it can really do and what it's all about. And so he uses it when he needs it, use it the most, because it's literally his last form. So now we have his second to last form. Now, like I said, we'll see his actual final form 2 episodes from now. But overall, Kuuga's successful for the day. And now, we now move on to the final battle. Episode 47. After an attempt of beating Endog of Izeba, Yusuke gets his shit wrecked and his belt gets damaged. Like, you see cracks all over his belt. And he falls defeated, and Dogova just goes on and about killing people. No, and Endog of Izeba at this point has made a sign that the ultimate darkness is coming by making it rain. This is his way of calling Yusuke out to have their final battle. And before that happens, Yusuke is traveling around, spending time with people who meant the most to him, and not only the people who not only that, but he goes to the people who he's actually made an impact in, because he says after he's done here, he's going out on an adventure. Oh, and one subplot that goes along in this episode is Ichigo finding B1 and actually killing her. Just another example of how badass Ichigo is, because he has a very few badass moments in this show where he even goes after a few monsters himself. And there was one episode a while ago where he actually brings down an assailant that was going after one guy. But with that said, in the episode where, and at this point now, the police are actually able to beat and kill Gorongi because they now have powerful enough, like, bullets to actually kill them, which happened back in episode 46. But anyway, all of this happening like Yusuke spending his last moments with people, like Ichijo actually getting the Rose Dorangi. This is all episode 48, which I realized at this point, I haven't said a word about the episode titles of this show. They're all one word titles, and the titles of the episodes of episode 48 and 49. Because now we're talking about episode 48, Kuuga. So, like what I said, the Rose Garanki dies in this episode, and Endogvizeba, he's the last one left, and he challenges Kuuga to fight at Mountain Kuro, where it all began. Now, one more thing I'd like to talk about is... Let me hang on. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about Endogvizeba or any of his abilities, but I'll talk about what he looks like in a moment. This dude can control weather as well as set people on fire, which explains all of his massacres, because when we see him again, he's in his human form and there are just bodies on the ground on fire. So yeah, he's very scary. And we go to Mountain Kuro in the snow, where first, it's snowing outside, which feels great because this final battle takes place in the snow. And first it was raining and now it's snowing. Before Yusuke goes, Ichijo apologizes to Yusuke, saying that you just wanted to go out on adventures, and instead I dragged you. I basically led you to your own death. But instead, like, he really feels guilty about this right now, but instead, Yusuke's thankful. Like, this has been one amazing adventure for him and Ichijo, because he's actually been able to go out and help people. And all of this is good to Yusuke because he got to meet Ichijo. He's the one, and I don't blame him, he's the one who convinced Yusuke that you gotta go all in. And so, the last thing he says to him is, please have a good look at my transformation. And we finally get to see what this show has been drawing up to, because he had no other choice but to beat Endogvizeba. Yusuke sacrificed his smile for the sake of others and became a fearsome warrior, and transformed into Kuuga ultimate form. He doesn't work up to it or anything because he held it in him all along, and now he can just summon it. But Kuuga ultimate, let's talk about this form. It's beautiful how scary this form really is, because it's dark, because it's black and gold. And the thing about this form is that the eyes are supposed to be black, but instead, when he transforms in it for the first time, his eyes are still red, which shows this wasn't a mindless monster. This was Kuuga. Everything... I love everything about this form. It's just like... because this is truly the penultimate form. What he was scared of becoming is now what he's using to save the world. One last thing to talk about is Endogvizeba's monster form. This is my favorite monster form throughout the entire... This is like my number one favorite monster form, because it's the antithesis of ultimate form. It's white and gold, and it has the stag beetle motif. And I really love how the chest is, as well as down at the bottom, because it somewhat reminds me of... He has change down at the bottom, sort of like a cape, and that's dope. And now, with all of the abilities these two warriors have, the first thing they both do is light each other on fire. Like, that's the flashiest thing you'll see in this fight, because afterwards, they immediately start punching the fuck out of each other. Like, they started at dawn, and this goes on for 8 hours, just going, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. And so, yeah, it goes on for so long, which brings me to one thing about this fight. Like, two things to keep me in mind about this. One, the timing for this fight would be unclear because people say that this is not people in the show, but people outside who've seen the show. They say it's an all-night fight, but this fight happens in like 5:44 in the morning. And so if this was truly an 8-hour fight, then it would end at like noon. And two of the rest of this episode, and the rest of this episode is once again them punching the hell out of each other. Like, only one kick was thrown, and it was by Kuuga, but it was nothing too dangerous, because if he did even a rider kick in this form, if Rising Mighty can destroy 3 city blocks, Ultimate Form could destroy the world. But back to this fight, it's dark and it's cringy because it's two dudes punching each other and actually drawing blood. Both fighters, like in this fight alone, both fighters even damage their own belt. Even both fighters, they damage each other's belts, causing them to de-transform. And so now you see Yusuke and Dogova fighting, and Dogova's human form, he's a teenager wearing all white, and he's laughing, just enjoying the suffering, because he thinks Yusuke is going to become him and bring the ultimate darkness. Like, Ichijo's making his way there and observes them knocking each other out, and in one final punch, both go down. What the actual fuck did I just watch? Like, oh my god. How this episode ends is both of these guys are knocked out on the ground, and Ichijo just says, "Go die. Go die!" To be continued. So, when do you ever see that? When do you ever see the main rider beat the final boss out of suit? What the hell? This is literally the darkest way someone dies in this show. Like, how do you go on knowing that happened in this show? Like, it wasn't his final form, it wasn't his mid-season form. Hell, he didn't beat the final boss in his base form. He beats him out of suit. And then the episode ends with you wanting closure and resolution. Like, did they both die? Hell, the next episode you realize you see a man. Hell, the next episode you realize you saw a man get beat to death. Oh my god. It's this is like my favorite fight scene to see, but oh my god. You just saw. I've seen this fight a million times, and I still get spooked by the fact that I saw a man get beat to death. No explosion. No. Yeah, there was no explosion or anything. He just fell back and died. Anyway, so speaking of which, of the next episode, the final episode of this show, episode 49, Yusuke. The final episode in this show, it makes me want to cry because because the journey is finally over and everything's back to normal. Jin and Enokita get together and she's able to clear things with her son that she's been sideswiping throughout this entire show because of everything that's been happening. And Yusuke's not there with everyone. And everyone's talking about him as if the viewer is assuming that he died. But when, big surprise, he's still alive and he's on a beach. And I think in Brazil, helping some kids that he saw just fighting each other. And the fact alone is that he left. Like, people actually miss him because of his nature. And he actually made an impact on everyone's lives. Not because of the action, but because of the person. Like, one, Ichijo goes to his sister's... Ichijo goes to Yusuke's sister's daycare job, where one kid asks, "Where's number 4? And why did he have to leave?" And Minori, his sister, explained, because all the monsters are beaten, and so number 4 is no longer needed. And this episode alone is just really sweet because it's putting a beautiful close to an adventurous journey. And this show, at the end, Ichijo meets all of his acquaintances in Tokyo before he returns to Nanago. And Yusuke is still Yusuke, going out on adventures, remembering that he's worthy of Kuuga, and is the better of Endogavizeba. And that's the end of the show. Like, this final episode alone, it makes me want to cry because next thing you know, while Yusuke is on the beach with the kids, the closing song is playing, and everything about it, it's so beautiful. There's a melody that this is all over now and everyone's safe. People have died on this way, but we did it. We put an end to the madness. It's just, talking about this episode alone. I need some water. Alright, I'm good. So now, let's talk about these characters. Starting off with our main writer, Yusuke Godai. Yusuke is amazing. He's not what I expected at all, but I then start to realize that him and I are a bit similar in terms of attitudes, of it because of his positive attitude, but he's also not all sunshines and happiness. No, he does have range in how he actually feels. Because he's not just always some easygoing dude. And with that said, Yusuke is honestly, he's respected by everyone because he's not an idiot. He knows exactly what he's doing and he knows why he's doing it, to protect and help people, because that's what he does. But next, like I said, Yusuke alone, he truly stands out as a human being of a character. And his actor really portrayed his role, which, big surprise, this is going to be a big surprise, that his actor, Joe Itagiri, was not a big fan of his own show. he wasn't really into tokusatsu, and after and he just did the show because he got casted, and but he does respect it enough to know this is where he got his start. But with that said, next, Ichijo. The man is a badass. Like, he is an unofficial secondary writer because when Kuuga's out being Kuuga and dealing with the monster, he's not doing nothing. He's also trying to fight the monster as well. Because he's always there to back him up. He's the one constantly watching over Kuuga and hell, even assisting him. They were both there together in the final battle because this is something that he had to be there for to really support Yusuke before he goes out on his own. And with that said, Ichijo had one very interesting arc because he started off as very high and strict, but really being with Yusuke, it tones him down. But the dude still backs up his seriousness. But this next character should be talked about just because she was really there throughout the entire show. Sakurako. Usually the role of the girl in KamenRider is to be that support and one to bring the writer back down to reality. This is in reverse with Yusuke and Sakurako because the fact that he is Kuuga and that he's out fighting monsters to protect people is the reality, and she really doesn't want to see him get hurt. And he shows from time and time again with any new enemy he meets, he literally can't do this without her because she serves the most purpose out of everyone, being the translator of the text so that he can get the job done and learn how to be Kuuga. She served the most purpose out of everyone, and she is just such a heartwarming person because Yusuke is so crazy, and she's the most heartwarming person because Yusuke is so crazy, and she's just so used to it, as well as doesn't put up with it at all. So she's pretty calm but fun. So that has been KamenRider Kuuga. This show is really entertaining because it works like a drama, but how it works but how the structure of the show is with how the monsters go out and kill people and how they can coordinate that into police cases and how to solve them. It's one of the parts about the show that's truly fantastic. Not just the writer, but also the show's structure. It's two-part. This show is constant two-parters, but this is where two-parters are not annoying and are very amazing. And it helps the fact that this show is actually episodic. When it's a two-parter and it's episodic, it works a lot more than a two-parter that's serialized and always constant two-parters. Now, like I said, this is my second time watching this show, and on first watch, it was a total surprise. But I think from second watch, I got into what I expected it, but to feel what I did in this show, I still did, because of the characters all serve a purpose. The monsters are amazing. And overall, when you combine all these things together, you get one of the best Kamen Rider seasons known to man. Because, hell, I would put Kuuga on my list. When I watched this show a third time, I possibly would and could because there are episodes in the show and moments that I do enjoy. Like the episode where Titanform is introduced, I really like the monster there. And the first episode where he gets Rising Dragon, I really like that episode because how he beats the monster and the fight alone's amazing. As well as it tells a good story. Like, the Garangi in this show are a serious case, and they're not just something people are going to live in fear of. They know of what situation they're living in, and they choose to keep living because they're not going to bring this down. Not while people are trying so hard to protect everything and everyone as much as they really can. The monsters were amazing. These actors were well casted. They all served a purpose, and Kuuga is just a fun ride from start to finish. One thing about this show that some people would have an issue with would be the pacing, but in my opinion, that goes away because this is my second time watching the show, so the pacing was really not an issue for me. But that's what I have to say about Kuuga. This is this is a good show. It's highly recommended, and I'm not being so overhyped about it. Like, I mean it. I do recommend anyone to watch this show. If you want to get a good feel of early Heisei and how different it is from Neo Heisei, give it a shot. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, share this video. Hell, tell your friends about KamenRider Blackman because I do show reviews like this. And I really gotta use the bathroom. Man, stay tuned for next time.